All right. Well, I am excited to be able to chat with you today, David. David is a friend and a partner over at DWH, a business consulting firm here in the West Michigan area. And I reached out to him because I want to get his perspective and hear his perspective on what in the world is going on right now. So I'm curious, David, just kind of as like a framework for how you're looking at the world right now. How are you processing things? I'm just curious, like you are obviously in the consulting world. You've seen a lot of different things. How are you processing things here, right? Mid-April 2020.
It's sort of an unprecedented time. I mean, you've never seen the complete world basically stop, right? So it's as if production has just stopped. I mean, the economic downturn or the economic hit to GDP, I heard it was going to be 40%. Could be more than that.
Do you think it's really going to be that high?
Well, if you're non-essential, what is the essential makeup of our economy? If you're non-essential and you're not producing, then you're zero on the GDP, right? You have zero
Sure.
commerce. And so, it's affecting even healthcare where they're taking non-elective or elective procedures and moving them out. That hospitals are operating at not the capacity they used to.
Yeah.
So every industry is just lowered, even municipal workers, everything is just way down. So it's like nothing we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what to make of it. I mean, it's really about when are we going to be let out of our houses? When are we going to return to normalcy? And then what does the economic activity look like at that point? And I generally have a theory about that, which is we'll see a spike because there's pent up demand. There's projects that need to get finished. You have 30,000 of one part coming from supplier. You might as well match it up with a 30,000 of the other part. And those things will get finished and done. But then I think there's going to be a new normal of economic activity that we're going to see after that. And that's the big question mark in my mind. I think the PPP will spur people to reopen, pay people, get production going. But then, the question I ask people is, are you going to buy a car in the next 6 months? Are you going to build a building? And, almost universally it's no, because I'm basically too afraid. I don't know what's in the future. And so people aren't going to take risks. And then also, what is this teaching us about sort of the fixed costs that we have in our businesses in our world? Do you need an office space as large as you do? Can you send all your workers home? Do we need to pay $50,000 a year for college because there's about an infrastructure cost? Can you do that for cheaper remotely? There's just a lot of fixed costs we have in our world, which is mostly office and real estate. And how does that dynamic shift learning that we can all do this every day? I mean, there's some more kid interference, but presumably they go back to school at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But, there's going to be a fundamental shift in the economy. I just don't know what it looks like yet.
So as you're asking people about risk and buying a car or building a building, like if that means the world is moving risk averse, does that put you in a position of saying, okay, well then we should look at taking risk? I'm just curious how that.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. So let's talk about this today. I mean, there's been a sentiment out there, especially with private equity in the world, lever up, take the risk, trade a company like a commodity. And the strongest companies coming into this, the ones that treat their companies like real owners who pay down their debt and have their blood in the bricks and are going to take care of their employees, are going to thrive through this.
What do you mean by that? What do you think that looks like? Explain.
So if you have a strong balance sheet, right, you have a bunch of cash there, you don't have debt, so leverage on a company is a function of your assets and your cash flow and what someone will give you as debt, right? You can get a higher return by having higher debt because you just pay down the debt, but you don't have to put all your capital to work. Well, if you invest more capital in your company, that means you can take on, if you need it at a time like this, more debt, or you've insulated your company that it can take shocks. And so they'll be strong. They'll be able to, this isn't going to overwhelm them and collapse them. I mean, they may have some demand problems, but they'll be able to weather the storm. And from that, they'll be able to pick up the best employees. They'll be able to be resourced. So say GM or Ford is looking to resource a supplier, they're going to go to the ones with the strongest balance sheet because that's who they're going to bet on in the long run. They're going to be able to buy competitors, make acquisitions. And so if you came in this and were fundamentally had a strong business because you cared about and you invested in it and didn't just try to rip all the cash out of it and trade it like a commodity, you're going to be in a very good spot. There's the Warren Buffett line: when other people are greedy, be scared, and when other people are scared, be greedy. And we're all scared right now, and I don't care who you are, but it's a wonderful time if you have cash and you have a strong balance sheet to go make moves.
I was just talking to somebody, I can't remember who it was. They said that Buffett has Berkshire Hathaway hasn't paid dividends in like 7 or 8 years or something like that.
No, it's never paid because
and so it's because he's hoarded cash for a long time. He's got like literally billions and billions of dollars. And someone said that he could see him buying Boeing, Delta, American, United, and Southwest all at the same time.
Here's the annual report right here, right on my desk. Love it.
So are you a Buffett fan? I was going to say.
I'm a Buffett. I've been to the annual convention once.
We should talk about that at a different time, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to see if I could get you the cash number, but I don't think I can right now.
Yeah, I can't. There's some ridiculous amount, and they were talking about the Buffett line of, everyone's scared, be greedy, and he might be.
Right.
At some point, he's going to come out and do something.
Oh yeah, I mean he's going to. I mean, last time this happened, 2008. He made loans to Goldman Sachs. I think it was American Express as well, and took warrants on them that made him a ton of money. He was making 10% loans to one of the largest financial firms, 10% interest rate, and he got warrants that made him a few $1 billion off of it.
That's crazy.
It's just like, I mean, if you're strong and conservative, that's what will be taught in business school, not leverage, I think, going forward, because you have to be prepared for
a shock in the system.
Right.
So if, based on your experience, how many, if you 0 to 100 percentage of people that are secured in their business ready for a shock? I'm just curious what your percentage would be. Is it 50%, 20%, 80? Just curious.
We're in West Michigan, so there's probably more than most. So that Dutch conservatism that plays out, I would say probably in this market 35 to 40%. And that also means some money that's been taken out that's sitting on the sideline that be willing to go back in from a family perspective or a business owner perspective, that's willing to not let, let's say, their people go, that were willing to put their own money at risk and not take a paycheck just so their employees can survive.
Because they know they'll be back.
They'll be back. Right. They're betting on it. They've seen it before. So I'd say there's a fair amount here. And then there's some others. In the world, though, with the amount of private equity activity, I hate to keep harping on that, but there is been, massive amounts of debt. I gave a presentation on this last year where I said that's our problem, and the amount of debt that has accumulated within middle market and large companies, SBA notes, not just what we have now, but the ability you could essentially buy a company with no money down, and the SBA gave pretty good terms on those, and so a lot of business owners are saddled with that. And so there's just a lot of debt, and debt is great for a return until it becomes a noose and you can't do anything. And then it's a horrible, horrible thing. So, I bought a business year and a half ago, and every dollar we've made has gone down to pay debt or given it to the employees as bonuses. Us as owners haven't taken a penny out because we're investing in the company. Kind of the Warren Buffett sort of idea of, I don't return capital because I think we can do something better with it. And once I figure out a way, if I can't figure out a way how to do something better with it, then I'll give it back to you. But until we have that point, we're not going to do it. And so that whole idea of paying that down quickly, the debt, just putting it toward it, was just to make sure that we were in a safe spot and that we could weather it out.
And that's definitely I mean, that's a philosophy. I mean, we've always been that way. Like, just pay down debt, because at the end of the day, right, when you have debt plus interest, it actually I always tell folks, if you're getting $1,000, right, but you have debt and interest, really costs you more. It costs you 1,100, costs you 1,200. So you really have to do more work to pay down the debt. So it's how quickly can you get out from under that? Because
Right.
then $1,000 is really even more in your hands.
Right.
It's even more powerful. So, but that's definitely a framework from the business perspective that not everybody
Right.
buys into it, right?
Right. No, I mean, you can do the math. You can put it in a spreadsheet, and it says, well, if I don't put in my own money, and the company, makes 20%, and I put debt in there, I can make a much higher return than I would if I, put my own capital up there at risk.
So, are there people that you're looking to that? I mean, because obviously, like you said, it's going to be a shock to every business, right? It's literally like you're getting hit by a car or a truck. And
Yeah.
it's a matter of, are you strong enough to withstand it? So are there businesses that you're looking to kind of be a lead indicator for you? Like, okay, how this is all going to react? I think maybe if I see these 3 or 4 industries and how they respond, then everything would kind of be a domino effect from there. Are there industries or companies that you're watching? I'm just curious.
I would look at the automotive supply base. I think that's going to be particularly brutal.
Is that because we're here in West Michigan, or just globally?
Globally, I mean, it is a global industry. Obviously, Detroit has much more concentration. We have a concentration here as well. But from that, they just ramped up to 17.5 million units just 2 years ago, I think it was, kind of peak auto. So everyone tooled up for that. It wasn't just capacity was laying around. So people built buildings, they bought machinery to meet that level of production. And now if you're looking at, there's been a softening in that, but if you're looking at the bottom dropping out, people have taken on risk recently to meet the needs that now are going to be well less. How do they weather through that? So, there's just a lot more capital in the mix. If you didn't pay it off quickly, you may be sitting with a machine that doesn't make you any money.
Right.
So I'd be looking at that. I think, obviously food's been doing well. Space I'm involved with. I hope they continue to do well. It's a question mark. Did everyone buy their food already for the next year?
Yeah, stock it up. 3 months from now, no one goes to the grocery store, right?
Right. And then, very particular to our region is the furniture, the office furniture. What kind of, investments will large companies and small companies, for that matter, make in their interiors? My wife's the designer, so it's really personal to us. So, but are they going to build new buildings? Will they retrofit their offices, or are they going to, now that we learn that we may be able to stay home, are you not going to have the level of office space you used to? And so there could be a fundamental shift. Now, they also make healthcare products, so they could benefit from that. They could make some products more associated with social distancing that could give them a little boom. So we'll see how they adjust to that. But fundamentally, they could see a shift in their model, which will be interesting to see. But I think just general manufacturing will be a real telltale sign.
Yeah, obviously. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there might be inshoring too, because of the global supply chain risk that we see today.
Yeah, obviously you've seen several examples of that in the last 30 days, and not like any adjustments can be made on the fly. It's going to be a 12 to 36 month process to pull all that back, if that's what happens, right? Which I can imagine it does.
I had a conversation with someone who has a friend that runs one of the global automotive companies overseas, and they were saying their country is coming back online. Their Chinese suppliers are trying to get them to take product, and they're like, "We're not open, we can't take it." And the individual is like, "We also have U.S. and Mexico suppliers, so this company's in Germany," and they're like, "Those aren't online." So now we're trying to piece together our cars from all over the world, and we can't get this part here. We have all of these. Right. And so they figure it's going to take it to the end of the year to get everyone back online so they can have all of their products together to make cars.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember somebody saying once about how bad the U.S. rail system was set up, that all of the freight cars were like messed up in Chicago, and to like get them undone was going to take like a 4-month process just to get cars pulled apart so that they could have freight going again. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on. It's just going to it's going to be nuts. So, all right. So some of the questions I came up with just to ask you, because I know I'm very interested. 2 of them were about young people. And it was about, if you were 20 or starting from scratch right now, how would you approach the world that we're going to be going into?
Boy, it's a good question. I would think about having a skill set. So build a base skill, and then you can do whatever you want from there. So whether that's finance, accounting, I'm trying to think what else would be out there, but lawyers, something that you can build from. You can always figure out what to do later, but it's safe to have to be pigeonholed and have some sort of reliant skill, rather than maybe go out there as a general business person. Or, sales is always good to have, but maybe I wouldn't go that direction right now.
Every sales floor is shut down. You can't sell anything. You can't go to the
right. So if you had a strong baseline knowledge, that just makes you better. And those are skills that will always be needed. But later in life, you may choose not to do that. I mean, I started in public accounting. I do not want to go back to public accounting. And so part of that is that, I knew it was going to be a good skill, and that it's transferable to a lot of things. But I would really, I might not get the art degree right now. You can always go back and get an art degree. But right now, you probably want some hard skills.
Do you feel like, I've heard lots of folks talking about in the fall, how they don't think universities are going to have 300 kids sitting elbow to elbow in a classroom again. And so that begs the question, what do you do, especially if you're a premium or a semi-premium brand as a university, where it's like, okay, yep, $36,000 to go here for the experience, but now you get to experience it remotely. And what does that do for the higher ed industry? Is that a question in your mind that's been rolling around?
It's been rolling around for a few years. So I don't want to get in trouble with anything I say here, but this has been kind of my philosophy, is that industry is so ripe for disruption, because the cost, the actual hard cost to educate someone compared to the actual price is so differential, because you can do this. You can do virtual learning. You don't have to build huge temples to your college. Part of that is networking. Part of that is learning to be an adult, but the price seems to have extended well beyond the actual cost structure. And they're so disparate, they're so different, that when someone can come up with a better solution, that instead of being $200,000 in debt when you get out of college, you can be $30,000 in debt. Okay, I can give up a lot of experience, or I can go live somewhere fun for 3 years and have a college education. So go to the beach, be a waiter for 3 years, and then still have your college education. And it's similar to the same experience. You just didn't have to get in debt so much.
Yeah, you can surf, go to college, wait tables, and have experience.
And a network.
And and all for the same amount of money, less debt. Like literally come out with no debt.
Right. And as we said before, debt it can be a noose. It can strangle you. And so, when I was 25, after I got out of public accounting, I moved to Breckenridge for 6 months and skied. And that experience was invaluable, and sort of just kind of getting out there and having some fun post-college. And so if you can do that, make some money and enough to pay the rent, and not get in debt, then you can kind of have some of that same experience as you may have in college. So I really think higher ed is, it's going to start at the kind of smaller, more marginal regional schools that maybe don't have the whole panache of maybe a large known school. But I think they're gonna have to restructure kind of their model, and it's going to be painful. Plus, they're coming off the baby boom echo, and so they're going to see enrollment drop just naturally, and I think they'll see it drop precipitously, especially as people don't want to take that debt or they don't have family support to take that debt.
Yeah, we've got our nephew's a sophomore at college up at Ferris, and it's just interesting. I mean, he's still getting the college experience, still everything's just virtual, but he's back at home, which he doesn't want to be, right? He wants to be away. But so he's thinking like next fall, like, okay, what happens if they don't open the campus? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I need to get a job, I need to move out, like, which is very interesting because that was not even in his brain 60 days ago. It's really interesting how quick things change.
Right. He was having a 4-year break from life before he started it. And suddenly now he has to be a person instead of just a college student, which is very different, as we all learned post-college.
Very different, very different.
Right, right.
All right. So my next question is, how do you look at the world? How do you make decisions faced with uncertainty and opacity?
Define opacity.
Where you cannot see past the barrier in front of you. Something that's opaque.
Opaque, okay.
There you go. Sorry, it's probably a better word.
Well, you can only deal with the facts you know. And if you try to get way long out there, you're making it up, right? At some level.
They are making it up?
You just got to make it up. No, in the short term, you can at least have some fact set to go on. We know that we will be able to leave our house at some point. Okay. Yeah. So presumably, right? But let's make that assumption. So, okay, when that happens, what do you do? Right? So you can start thinking about that. You can start thinking about what decisions will you make? Who do you need to contact? Who do you need to be in contact to make sure you're successful when we're allowed to leave our house? Do you set up meetings? Do you kind of do that? So what's the framework that I deal with that sort of thing?
Yeah, just curious.
It's sort of take the facts that you have and then wrap it around with some intuition. Think about what may happen and then say, what's the most probable outcome there? And then start working it from there. And so if you start just sort of thinking about what could happen, if you think way too broadly, you're going to get all messed up.
Yeah, possible and probable are two very different things, right?
Right. So what's probable? And then in the long run, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so if you take that mindset that there will be bumps, if you protect yourself in a way to make sure you're able to get through something like this, if you set yourself up financially to be able to have some buffer, then you'll be okay. If you have skill sets that are transferable, you'll be okay. So you just kind of do what you can. I mean, you can't freak yourself out. If you try to think of all possibilities, your mind will explode. Sometimes I try to get to September right now in my head and I go, there's way too many fact sets, there's way too many possibilities that I don't know what's going to happen. So, just kind of take it day by day.
But the next 30 days, all right, here's what you can do. How important has your network been in this time period right now? And what have you been doing to kind of just, just connect with people, even though we can't connect physically? What has network been important?
Yeah, it's a lot of phone calls, video chats, and text messages. A lot of, among some friends, inappropriate things sent around quite often. I won't share all of those. Yeah, there's a whole string of one thing. But it's been, it's just kind of keeping. So there's the friend network. I have a whole grade school of friends that we've started video chat. We haven't all been together in 10 years, maybe. And so that's been nice to reconnect and maybe with my parents a little bit more than I normally do. And so that's like the friend set. But business-wise, it's been, talking shop, trying to get on the phone. I'm on the phone a lot, but, making sure you're kind of talking to everyone about what could happen. And in our turnaround restructuring area of my firm, we're planning to get busy. So reaching out to a lot of those contacts and just saying, okay, what does it look like for you right now? And then what do you think it's going to look like? And then kind of playing that out. And that's it's a good baseline for discussion. And you're connecting over a shared experience, which is, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going to happen, but at least we're each adding a little bit of our own nugget to what we've heard or what we've seen and how we're approaching it. And that's where that sort of surrounds that thinking. Maybe you have some clarity because you're getting enough voices in there.
Interesting.
So comfort in your network.
Yeah, the way I've been describing it has been, I'm trying to establish the extremes of the pendulum, right? Because the pendulum is swinging massively right now. Eventually it's gonna calm down, but
right.
There's this possibility that in 2 weeks everything's back to normal, and then there's this possibility that a year from now we're still not back to normal, right? So it's this massive extreme, and I feel like the network provides voices of real world activity that allows me to kind of pull the extremes in a little bit more to maybe figure out what's going on.
I mean, our world has been so massively flipped in the last month. I mean, I took off to Colorado to go skiing a month ago, flew there, 5 of my buddies. I drove back 2 days later. And my one buddy, it was like they canceled the resort at Telluride while we were there. And he's like, Matt, that doesn't seem strange. My kids were in school 2 days ago. Right? Like our world had moved so quick. Yep. And now we're sitting here, and in the last week, the government rolled out a program to pay everyone's paychecks for every small business for 2 months. And that's going to be rolled out here. Like, whoa, wait, what? The government is going to pay everyone's payroll for 2 months. Like, that wasn't even a thought process a month ago, let alone 3 weeks ago. And so the fact that that is happening, and that is actually happening, who knows what, could come next. I mean, it's just so flipped so quick.
Yeah. To think that you could March 1st, 2020, that South by Southwest, all major sporting events, the NCAA tournament, Major League, every major sporting event would be canceled and done, and that airplanes would be sitting on the ground and not flying was just unheard of.
So for a year that every marketing hack out there was saying, oh, 2020, let's talk about clear vision and clear everything. It's the most unclear year we'll ever have when we're in 2020, which is kind of ironic.
Are there any points in history that you're looking to that can give some kind of clarity, or leaders in the past? I mean, do you have a war mentality right now? Do you have a post-World War II mentality, MacArthur program? You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious what you're looking at from your own framework.
Interesting. It's not like a post-war, because we're still in the war, right? And we don't know how long this war is going to last. But it's really, from my mindset, it's an opportunist viewpoint of the world, that there is going to be a lot more opportunity, because out of failure comes growth, right? And so I view it as a kind of hard to say, but a good time to do things that maybe you couldn't do before because other people are fearful. So I sort of, Warren Buffett is who I'd look to on some of this, and there's some of the people that have done well in down times, because if you can make it on the buy side, you can make it successful because your risk point is so much lower. And for the past few years, we've been looking at buying companies and doing some other stuff, and the price point's so high and everything's going so well, you're like, I'm going to have to take on a ton of risk to do it. At this point, the risk is already, I don't say known, but it's so low because it's there. The risk is real, right? Opposed to the risk being hypothetically in the future. So if you take on that risk, it's right in front of you and you can see it. And therefore, only the upside is what could happen. And so I think it's opportunity.
Do you think it's going to get worse? I guess that's the question.
Oh, yeah.
What does worse look like in your world?
Worst. So it's definitely, in my viewpoint, going to get worse. So
just as like a perspective, like we're like have we hit the tipping point of the downward roller coaster yet?
No.
We have not hit the apex. I just want to clarify that. Okay.
Because
I don't feel like we have either.
Right. We're all sitting at home. And whether you're talking about the virus, I think that's
No. I'm talking economic. I mean,
oh
stuff, I
no.
have no idea. Medical stuff, I leave it to the experts. I'm just
Again,
staying home.
yeah, no, I think, the virus will take longer than we think to get through. It's not going to be up, done, out. But I think the economic consequences are going to be significant. And I think they will be seen tail end of the summer going into the fall, when the PPP program ends. Maybe they'll roll out a second thing, but there's just the velocity of money is slow right now. And that's what PPP is supposed to do, is move money around from companies. But I think after that happens, people will not be investing in those capital expenditures. And that's really going to cause a lot of pain. So anyone in a business that is making a product that is durable or long-term, whether that's buildings, whether that's appliances, there's just going to be a resistance to invest. Invest in anything that because you're uncertain about your own future, or your business is uncertain about their future. You're certainly not going to go and invest in things. Just is a general statement. I may be different, but then if you are, you're going to be able to pick up used things or things that came off of companies that didn't make it, to do those sort of things. So if you're in the trade of building the next thing or the big investment, I think that's going to be a shock, and therefore then it's going to shock that whole supply chain, and there's going to be a lot of trouble from that.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Stock market, right? Do you look at the stock market as something as an indicator, or do you just ignore it?
No, ignore it, because I sort of bet against it a little bit ago, so that was nice. But I think, how can we, we're returning up, like corporate profits are going to be fine, and I just don't see it. I don't see. We may see a quarter of it, but if we're going to look at quarter two, it's just going to be brutal. And I don't know how a stock market goes up when earnings go down. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm not one to play the stock market by any means. I mean, I've owned a business, and I'll go operate the business, and it'll produce money, and that's how I see the world. But it's interesting because
I'm really bad at investing in the stock market.
It's why you buy companies and invest in the employees, right?
Right.
Exactly.
At least I can see them.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's definitely a difference in philosophy, right? We went for a walk in Heritage Hill the other day, and literally it was yesterday, and this young gentleman, couple kids out back playing football in the backyard, big lot, and literally I'm like, we were talking about the dog, and I'm like, so which business do you own, right? Because he's got the big house and seems to be doing great, and I'm like, he's got to own a business, because business creates cash flow, and cash flow is king, right? And at the end of the day, the next 90 days, the next 180 days, that's going to prove itself out.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's business.
You better have a lot of cash and liquidity, or access to liquidity, because it's going to be the king. And it has been. And if you have access to it, really, it's a little late to say this, but the companies that are going to perform strong are ones that maybe didn't utilize the cash, but set up the access point for it. And that's the most important thing. So did you have a way to put money back in? Did you have a line of credit? Oh, we don't use our line. Go get a line, so that it was open, so that you could draw off it, because now you can do it, and you have the assets to be able to do that.
Any industries you're looking to that you think are going to grow and explode right now? I mean, online education seems like one to me, but I could be wrong. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are. If there's things you're looking at that, okay, this could go crazy right now.
Yeah, I advise and have a little piece of a company here called Envoy, and they do wholesale e-commerce platforms, but they also have tools for reps to go in the field, and they're getting a lot of requests to do trade shows through what they produce for the reps in the field in the digital trade show space, because there's just, people still need to connect and see things. So I think things that move sort of that fixed cost environment to something that's a little more agile will be interesting. that's directly impacted on this. I mean, food, obviously, shortening the supply chain.
Interesting.
So if you can produce next door, and at least if you're down, they're down, rather than have sort of the global risk, could be an interesting move. And I think, there's a push toward automation because of labor costs. I think that might push the opposite way, because labor is going to be cheaper and it's going to be more abundant.
More people in the workforce, right?
Right.
Or looking for work.
Looking, and better quality too, right? Like there's a lot of companies that were sort of, they needed to fill roles and they were going with a warm body, and that may change. They may get quality warm bodies. But I don't know. I think if you have a well-run, a good customer base, a loyal, we talk about your balance sheet as a bundle of relationships, customer side, a bundle of payables, which are your suppliers, and your bank. If you keep good relationships, companies that can leverage those, they'll be okay, and they'll do well. And so you look for companies that have built trust, and they will do well.
Interesting. So if you're like me in GR, and you go and you frequent, normally you go frequent, 20, 30, probably 40 businesses a week that are mom and pop shops, 5 employees, 12 employees, it's not Verizon, it's not
Right.
AT&T, right? And everybody's shut down right now. What would you tell them, you've got that they should be thinking about? Like, what are the top couple of things? Is it cash flow, or are you a relationship management guy? Like you've mentioned those two things a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, so think about how you're going to get back into business, right? Mm-hmm. So what's day one look like? Do you need to order supplies? Are you out of them? If you're a restaurant, do you have to do that? And then leverage your relationships. Say it's Gordon Food Service. Well, your last order that you got in, you probably donated to food bank if you don't have a robust online ordering process, right? So now you're already up to them in credit. So can you get more credit from them? Can you say, I'll park that, I'll pay that over time, but I need this right now to get back up? And then your employees, figure out if you can get PPP to pay them, to have them there. You're going to lose some of them, but get them, and then come back strong and get your customers, build those relationships. Like you said, I mean, reach out to them and say, I'm open, come support me. Like, invigorate the community.
Yeah, I
celebrate being open.
Yeah, I think everybody's gonna need to have like a grand reopening party,
right?
When they're all open again. It's like, right. Let's have a bunch of ribbon cuttings, right? And take photos and post it online. We're back.
We're back. We're real.
That's my marketing mind, is like, yeah, everybody should update their headshots and their website and their photos, and like everything should be fresh, almost like post quarantine,
right?
To give you something to talk about other than in addition to being open, but it gives you tools and material to go do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point, because you're like, we're all thinking about death right now, right? Like there's some sort of like, people are dying, and also like everything stopped, everything died.
The great pause is how I heard it described.
That's a great way to say it. It's like, it's sort of in Michigan, right? It's like you go into winter and things just go away. But right now you look outside and stuff's budding, and spring is life. And in that, those owners should be leaning into life, and that they will come back, they will be alive again. And with that, that's how you invigorate, I think. If you sit there and focus on, woe is me, this happened to me, it happened to everyone, but you can come out strong and you can be alive and bring it to the world. You're back again. And there's ways to make sure you make it through this, and lean on your relationships.
Relationships are, at the end of the day, just doing this for a bunch of years, it's all about building relationships and making sure people are happy. And
right.
And if you do that, they're going to come back. My brother works at a restaurant here. I won't name it, but they're doing more per day in to go than they would do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and some Thursdays when they were fully open and staffed, which means they're making more money not being open.
So it's the meat company I own. We supply some restaurants, and they're like, it's great. We don't have to clean our dining room because, we don't have people serving out there. We just have to go. We have our crew, and yeah, it's actually going really well.
I think you'll see a bunch of restaurants realize I don't need a dining room in September of 2020, and they will maybe food truck-esque to be a mobile entity, and then just have a kitchen where they can deliver in a small. I think about Grand Haven and Pronto Pups, dude. I mean, the fact that no one's gonna go to the beach this summer might be a problem, but like they got like 7 square feet. They must be the most profitable 7 square foot of restaurant space in the world, because those guys they have a line of like 100 people all the time, and they're still gonna have a line even if it's 30. It's still gonna have a line.
And I think that's the nature of it. And if the ones who had the loyal followings continue to have them, and they will get them back. There will be some collateral damage, but you do the right things, and you hope that your relationships matter and that they'll help you get through this.
Yeah, I can't remember what event I was at, but it was I was photographing somebody, and they said from stage, they said, you know what, in the retail world, the 20% of retailers that are amazing, that everybody loves, they're going to keep dominating, and because that's what they do, because they're amazing. And the 80% that aren't, they're just going to keep churning like they always have.
Right.
And I remember thinking, that was a couple years ago I heard that, and I remember it stuck with me, and I feel like right now is like that, it's the come to the realization moment that that's what's going to happen, but it presents opportunity.
Right. We'll lose some good businesses just because, but we'll be stronger because the strong businesses will make it. The ones that matter, the marginal ones in the margins, the ones that maybe didn't have the right business plan, maybe shouldn't have been there in the first place, are definitely, they can get washed out in this. But if you're strong, if you matter, you'll come out of this.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it great with the spring is all about life, and we're sitting here in the season of winter thinking about death, and we need to, reassess our perspective, especially as owners. And I appreciate that. That's it's definitely been something that has shifted. I'd say, I feel like in a 30-day period of going through, you went skiing to now, like the first 2 weeks was just like panic. And then the last 2 weeks has been like the reset button on our old Nintendos, where it's like, you blew on the cartridge, stuck it back in, hit power, and kept hitting reset until it would work. And that's the mentality we're in right now. It's like, blow on the cartridge, start over.
And what better time to plan than right now? You're sitting at home, you have time to plan.
Yeah.
You might as well do it and think about your future, map it out. I know it's uncertain, but let's assume we return to normalcy in 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you look like? What do you wish you had done that you didn't do? Well, now you can correct for that. You make it through here. It's going to be hard, but you'll make it through, and then do the things that you always wanted to do.
All right. With that being said, to end our conversation, where do people find you online? Are you
mostly online?
Where do they find you? Tell them where to find you. At
DWHcorp.com. You can find my company where I'm a partner at. We're a consulting firm, business consulting firm. You can find the meat company at tolmansmeat.com.
Are you shipping to people's homes right now? Is that what
we are?
No way.
Yeah, we pivoted. It's been a month now. So we saw this, not that we had a crystal ball, but we were like, wow, a lot of stuff's getting shut down. So maybe we should do home delivery. And within a week, so it'll be a month and a few days that we started home delivery. So
people should buy your meats in West Michigan is what you're saying.
You buy your meats, we drop them off at your door. 30-mile radius of Grand Rapids. We show up, drop your meat.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll have to figure out some special code. If people use that code, you'll know they came from.
We'll find something. Right.
That'll be hilarious. All right, David, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and wish you all the best in this time of uncertainty.